Hello, welcome everyone. This is the International Peace Coalition. My name is Anastasia Battle. I'll be your moderator today, as well as Dennis Small and Dennis Speed. This is the 118th meeting that we've had consecutively. And thank you all for joining us in this process, the veterans who have been joining us in this process, as well as new people. If you're new, I definitely want to encourage you to join during the general discussion period to introduce yourself, where you're from, any organizations you're with. And also, please take a moment to share this invitation with your friends and organizations and reasonable enemies. And I like to remind people why we created this forum 118 weeks ago, which is to unite the international peace movement, which I'm sure many of you are aware that there has been a lot of attacks to prevent people from working together because of their philosophical differences, which quite frankly is ridiculous. If we're actually trying to create true peace for humanity, we need to collaborate together for that common goal. So I want to encourage everyone to remember that and to join in that process in recruiting more and more people to this. Um, to open us up today, we have Helga Zepp-LaRouche, who is the founder of the Schiller Institute and the initiator of the International Peace Coalition. Please go ahead, Helga.
Thank you. First, hello to all of you. Today, the situation is one of extreme contrast, but there is a major positive development. As a matter of fact, I think it is extremely important that everybody realizes that with the events of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Tianjin, China, and the following, meetings, the military parade in Beijing, and now the Vladivostok meeting, East Economic Forum, there is a dramatic change for the better in the world because a new economic system is emerging. It's not yet consolidated, but it is very clear that the majority of the world population being represented at this SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting, has changed the world because they are creating an independent economic system which has the potential to become actually a new world order. And at the end of my short remarks, I will read to you a short text for your consideration about endorsing this development. Now, what has happened is there was the 25th anniversary meeting of the SCO, and in a clear reaction to the tariff war launched by President Trump against the BRICS countries, something unprecedented has happened, namely that India and China have moved closely together. There was a very important positive meeting between President Xi and Prime Minister Modi, where they basically buried the past tensions. And naturally, you have the very deep friendship between Putin and Modi. They were seen walking hand in hand together talking, and that has freaked out the international mass media more than anything else to see these two men hand in hand. And naturally, the foundation of this entire development is the unshakable partnership between Russia and China. And then naturally, these countries who were represented there represent already their 42% of the world population. And then if you take into account that these SCO countries are all linked and interconnected with other organizations such as the BRICS, the Eurasian Economic Union, the ASEAN, the CELAC, the African Union, the BRI, then you actually have a network of organizations and countries altogether representing the global majority of 85% of the human species. And they have clearly decided that they will create a new system based on sovereignty, absolute respect for the different social system, no interference in the internal affairs of the other country, peaceful cooperation, and they have started to create alternative mechanisms to protect themselves against economic warfare measures coming from the collective West, such as tariffs, sanctions, unilateral sanctions, regime change, and similar measures, by creating now a Shanghai Cooperation Organization bank, which will be, in parallel to the new development bank of the BRICS and the already existing AIIB. So you can see clearly that they are trying to create credit creation mechanisms which are independent of the potential coercion and weaponization of the dollar being kicked out from SWIFT and similar measures. So this is an extremely positive development. And, I think it puts the West, the so-called collective West, which is not united anymore at all, in front of the clear choice to either continue the geopolitical confrontation against Russia and China, and that way eventually ending up in a third world war, or recognizing that this global majority is something one cannot get around any longer, and therefore the only way is to adapt to that global majority. Now, I think that change it will be painful for many establishment figures in the West to acknowledge this changed reality. But I think we can see already clear signs that, this is a new reality. One such reflection was the fact that at the very recent Coalition of the Willing meeting in Paris, where they wanted to decide, sending troops to Ukraine, boots on the grounds, that despite the fact that there was Macron pushing very much to send troops to Ukraine for so-called peace keeping, that was not welcomed, and only 6 out of the 26 countries of the Coalition of the Willing agreed to actually send troops. This was naturally Great Britain, France, the 3 Baltic countries, and one other country whose name I could not identify, but all the others refused. Italy refused, Poland refused, Bulgaria refused, Germany refused. And they had a meeting, a telephone conversation from Paris with President Trump. And the only thing which became known after that was that the meeting was completely disappointing, because obviously President Trump did not support whatever they were demanding. And Chancellor Merz, who had been extremely bellicose before, somehow very frustratedly said, Germany is not going to send troops. They will try to beef up all kinds of long-range weapon production inside Ukraine, but no troops. And he said that the problem is that, obviously it does not function to find a peace solution without Russia. And Russia is now in a new partnership, in a strengthened partnership with China, with India, with Brazil, and other countries. And, that sort of blocks naturally a unilateral approach in Ukraine. Now, this is a very important shift in the strategic situation, which I think we are only seeing the beginning of. And hopefully, this will also impact the situation in the Middle East, because that changing reality hopefully soon will be felt there as well. Now, the situation on the ground in the Middle East remains one of absolute horror. The unrestrained assault on Gaza City by the IDF is continuing, with all the horrible casualties and people being killed. is continuing. The West Bank attack is going on. And the response by the international community is totally insufficient, which is why we absolutely have to gear up the organizing of the IPC now that the month of September has arrived. On the 9th of September, the UN General Assembly starts, and we are pushing very hard that the power of decision be shifted from the UN Security Council to the UN General Assembly, as it is provided for in the resolution UN 377, Uniting for Peace, which allows exactly such a shift in decision making, so that then the UN General Assembly could make decisions to impose all kinds of measures, sanctions against Israel, sending a peacekeeping blue helmet troop to the region, and whatever other measures are required. So this is, meeting at a point where the international community is becoming more and more, shifting against Israel, because the news about the unprecedented genocide, the unprecedented since the end of World War II, can no longer be suppressed. And there's one important, it may not be sufficient, but it is an important element, and that is that a movie about the development in Gaza called The Voice of Hind Rajab has been presented on the 3rd of September at the Venice Film Festival. And I have not seen that movie, but apparently it received a 26-minute standing ovation, and everybody was in tears, including the crew which filmed the movie, because it is the absolute heartbreaking story about Hind Rajab, a 6-year-old girl, which was hit by bombs, being in a car with her family, everybody being killed. And then there are 70 minutes of live tape interwoven into the movie, where this 6-year-old girl is describing how she cannot speak because blood is coming out of her mouth, and unbelievable account of the horror, all the other people in the car being dead, all her family members being dead, and she tries to figure out, being 6 years old in this ocean of bloodshed and murder. So I think this movie obviously is an important warning to the world, and it's not solving the situation, but hopefully it helps to wake up the conscience of the world to finally act. So we have to gear up our massive efforts to get the UN resolution 377 absolutely on the agenda in the meeting, which will start in a few days in New York. Now, so the situation is, as I said, completely changed. I think that we are experiencing now one of those rare moments. I compare it to the fall of the wall in '89 and the historic chance which was in the German unification, where, at the end of the Cold War, you could have changed the world, you could have installed a peace order for the 21st century. That chance was utterly missed, and instead you had, the effort by the Anglosphere, the neocons and their cohorts in Great Britain, to establish an unipolar world with many horrible consequences, and that has backfired. Now, I think that we absolutely have to mobilize the world majority, but especially the countries of Europe, the United States, and whatever other countries are there belonging to this section of the West, like Japan and maybe Korea, North, South, New Zealand, to absolutely support and overcome this geopolitical division, because in my view, this is the only way how the Ukraine crisis can be solved. And by shifting the world combination in this way, I think it's the only way how a two-state solution, humanitarian aid immediately, the Oasis plan, the reconstruction of the Middle East can be realized, because only if we convince the countries of the West to stop opposing the global majority, I think is there a chance to resolve this situation, this genocide in the Middle East. So therefore, my suggestion is I will read you a very short text, and if you agree with it, I would urge you that we make that the rallying cry for a mobilization of the IPC, because I think that that can really shift the situation to address all these other issues. So let me quickly read to you this text. The nations of the West must cooperate with the New World Order. At the summit of the SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Tianjin, representing around 42% of the world's population, a new world order has emerged, independent of the West, founded on the principles of sovereignty, non-interference, mutually beneficial economic cooperation, and peaceful cooperation. In an event of global historic significance, that China and India, the two most populous nations already representing 35% of the world population, have now begun to cooperate closely with each other and with Russia. These countries, which are also interconnected through organizations such as the BRICS, the Belt and Road Initiative, the Eurasian Economic Union, ASEAN, CELAC, the African Union, collectively represent 85% of humanity. The emergence of this new world order is a response to the collective West's attempt after the end of the Cold War to establish an unipolar world order under Anglo-American dominance, marked by endless interventionist wars, sanctions, and regime change efforts, which has ultimately backfired completely. The nations of the global majority are now overcoming an era of 500 years of colonialism and asserting their right to independent economic development. This is made possible above all by China's unprecedented rise, which offers countries of the global South a model and cooperation that the West denied them for centuries. Thus, the world has reached an absolute turning point. We can either continue the geopolitical confrontation against Russia and China, risking a third, and this time final, world war, or we can choose to cooperate with this new emerging economic system. President Xi Jinping has proposed the vision of a community with a shared future of mankind, which he emphasized in his speech at the SCO summit. Humanity will either sink together or rise together. It is in the fundamental self-interest of the nations of the collective West, no longer truly united, to cooperate with the states of the global majority and to jointly address the great challenges facing humankind, overcoming poverty and underdevelopment, ensuring lasting world peace, and securing the right of every person on the planet to fulfill their potential, for the realization of a shared community for the future of humanity. And then I have signed for people to sign and give their signature. So I would urge you, if you agree with that, to help us to circulate this widely, because it is also a way to, in the most shortest and efficient way, to make sure that the world majority is aware of this historical opportunity. So that's what I wanted to say in the beginning.
Thank you very much, Helga, for that. And I'll make sure to post in the chat the draft so people can review it during the meeting and then we can have a general discussion about it. But personally, I think this is fantastic and important to get out. I also just want to emphasize the importance of people uh, once we get this done, taking this out and recruiting more and more people to this process and getting this across the world. So thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to pull myself together. That movie that you described was um, very emotional. So thank you also for bringing that up. So we'll continue. Um, Next, we'll go to Pedro Paez, former Minister of Economic Policy Coordination in the government of Rafael Correa in Ecuador, former President of the Ecuadorian Commission for the Design of a New Financial Architecture, and the former Ecuadorian representative to the region-wide Banco de Sur, the Bank of the South. And thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Paez, for the discussion today. Please go ahead.
Muchísimas gracias por la invitación.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and I would like to also congratulate you for this initiative. I think that in these circumstances of degradation of the political leadership on a world scale, that with very few exceptions, it's absolutely fundamental that the mobilization of society, civil society, the mobilization of the social organizations, professionals, intellectuals, academics, that mobilization which will allow us to have initiatives that will allow us to get out of this swamp of impotence and impunity, which feeds the arrogance of actions such as those which we've just heard about. Perhaps the most atrocious of all are the circumstances which we are seeing today, has to do with a genocide being carried out against the Palestinian people, the murder of children, women, innocent people. Furthermore, justified in a process of destruction of an entire civilization, a culture, which has also infected parts of public opinion in many other countries as well. The Italian thinker Antonio Gramsci wrote in a very often repeated phrase, when you have these transitions in which the one world is dying and another hasn't been born yet, you have such monsters. And perhaps the greatest monstrosity, which doesn't only have to do with the victims themselves, the immediate victims, but with the dignity of mankind, the character of mankind. This requires a response. The impunity, I insist, is part of something which is leading to this arrogance with which actions are being carried out and which can also be seen in other areas of the world. Therefore, this resolution of Resolution 337 in the United Nations, I think is something that should be carried out in a more frontal and direct initiative. We have to take advantage of all sorts of regional and national initiatives to carry out this diplomacy of nations, of peoples, to stand up in face of the inaction of governments. And inevitably, it has to be the organizations of social organizations, the churches, which take up the initiative to act under these circumstances, because to the degree to which there is not an understanding, there's not even a language which is used in the different professions to be able to confront the rapid changes which the world is facing at this time, at these months and these years, I think it's absolutely indispensable to open the doors for the initiatives, the thinking of the intellectuals of different currents. For that reason, again, I want to greet this possibility of your coalition to pull together a polyphony. The perspective which President Vladimir Putin has talked about, this idea of a polyphony of options with different traditions, different ideological approaches, political, theoretical, different disciplines, which will allow us to contribute to the construction of alternatives, the construction of areas of joint work, the areas of spaces in which we can find convergence. I think that precisely because of the speed of these systemic changes which we are seeing, it's going to be the initiatives such as this which will allow other types of conversations to occur, different types of historical perspectives brought to bear, which were not seen in previous correlations of forces. We cannot expect and wait for the situations to exist, the circumstances to exist before we lance initiatives. It is rather initiatives which change the circumstances. Furthermore, I think it's very important to note that the level of arrogance and genocide being carried out, which were in a very condensed way seen in Gaza, are present everywhere in the world. It's not a coincidence that the war party, that this grouping, which is trying to kill anyone who is fighting against them, they're launching all sorts of provocations. The imperial aggression in the Caribbean, the provocations to the people and government of Venezuela, from that to the manifestations and the agent provocateurs in Indonesia, but also in the Balkan countries, also in Cyprus, also in the rise of new, out of nowhere, the rise of new causes of problems, for instance, between Peru and Colombia, or those which already began to be discussed to open an arms race between Chile and Peru and Bolivia, and the confrontations occurring between different countries, the escalation of violence, verbal violence between countries, among presidents of Latin American countries, something which has not been seen in the last 150 years in our continent. The aggression of President Noboa in Ecuador, this extreme right oligarch who goes into Mexican territory in the embassy in Quito. There's a series of provocations which are indicating a specific agenda, a hidden agenda, to increase tensions and to provoke war. War is not a characteristic of humanity, as some people say, but rather we're talking about powerful interests which are benefiting from war. And it is precisely the specific groups within the world financial system, especially those directly connected to the British Empire, and which now we can see that out of the shadows they're trying to make use of the United States and Europe to carry out their activities. And they're the ones who are defining and attempting to destroy any possibilities of peace, which are developing in different places. For example, the ideas of development of new infrastructure, new space of communication, trade between peoples, what is developing between Saudi Arabia and Iran, or Pakistan and India, or Azerbaijan and Armenia. They immediately want to create a different circumstance, different perspective to stop conflicts. It's absolutely crucial to understand that all of this is part of a desperate necessity, a structural desperation of that war party whose axis of reproduction is financial speculation. That's why, just as we have these initiatives in the field of diplomacy, in institutional areas, such as Resolution 377 to stop this aggression in Gaza, it is also indispensable to cut at the root the capability for action that the financial speculative oligarchy has, which is basically tied to the Anglo-American axis, and to do this through a new financial architecture. The options which are being presented from the BRICS and now from the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and that's not enough. It's indispensable that there be hundreds of alternatives in different regions and different localities to allow us to continue with trade, to continue with cooperation, in the framework of this new geopolitical orientation, which is being presented and which poses and to combat the tariff policies of Trump, and with the decisions which Europe is carrying out, these attacks, and in the case of third world countries, this is directly connected to the rapid debt trap growth, which repeating what was done in the 1970s is having great success in stymieing especially with the collapse of Lehman Brothers, the over-indebtedness of the third world is once again a trap that has been fallen into. This is a situation which can rapidly become a prison from a macroeconomic standpoint, from the standpoint of balance of payments, from the standpoint of our fiscal responsibilities. This creates an impossibility to respond because of lack of initiatives and because of legal conditions and concrete economic conditions. Therefore, the possibility of having new forms of production, new forms of financing, new forms of supporting initiatives and creativities of the people have to be brought to the same level of urgency as Resolution 377. And as Helga Zepp-LaRouche has just proposed, I think that's what needs to be done. Thank you very much. I think that these kinds of discussions have to occur on a local or regional discussion, and would like that the seed of this coalition be replicated in other parts of the world.
Thank you, Mr. Paez, for that. It's very important, and I just want to underline what you said, that it's crucial to understand that what's happening right now is out of desperation of the war party. I think that's very important for people to understand, because if you just look at it from your own country, from the United States or Germany or anywhere in Europe, you think, oh my God, this is so hard, and how do we change things? And then you realize what's actually happening with the rest of the world, that this is out of desperation on their part to try to continue their system. So thank you so much for that intervention and what you're doing as well. So we have a number of activities that are happening within the IPC, and one of them, we have our friend Rafed, who is the founder of the Integrity Political Action Committee, Rafed Aljoboury. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. And you're at work right now. But this is coming off a fantastic event that happened in Detroit. We all got to meet each other in person, which was wonderful. And you've been pulling together a significant demonstration in New York City on September 15th, and it's so wonderful for you to join us today. Please tell us a bit about what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I'd like to start by, I know we have said that before, but let's reaffirm that it is obvious to everybody.
Oh, Rafed, you cut out, right? That's not just on my end, right? Yeah, other people. Rafed, could you go back just about 5 seconds? You cut out a bit.
Okay. I said I would like to start by basically mentioning the upcoming supposed vote of the recognizing the Palestinian state. Having said that, it is obvious that the Zionists, by now, it's clear to everybody that have no intention to coexist with Palestinians, nor do they have any intention to allow a Palestinian state to occur or being established. Not to mention, they are in control of 80% of the land, and they are continuing their annihilation in both the West Bank and Gaza. And even if the international community were to vote on a Palestinian state, a state without land, a state that has no border, a state that has no sovereignty, a state that cannot manage its own affairs. So it is going to be symbolic, honestly, in my opinion. Recently, as you all know, the number of casualties among journalists have risen to over 274 journalists. Last week, there was 2 more added to the list. One of them is Islam Abid, and the number is on the rise. So their acceleration of their military operation in Gaza, indicative of they want to a complete annihilation to Gaza before the world act and stop them. So it is imperative, it is urgent, it is life and death now to the Palestinian. It's a matter of exist or no exist. If we are not to do and use every tool available and use every mean of pressure available, again, on the international community, especially the permanent members of the UN and the Security Council, it would be too late by then. Anthony Aguilar was talking about this actually a few days ago. And from even his military perspective, he analyzed it correctly. That's basically that acceleration when they deploy 60,000 troops in Gaza 2 or 3 weeks prior to the schedule that they announced. That means they are feeling there is a momentum and there is a pressure coming. There is campaign of pressure coming. They want to accomplish their supposed mission before the international community stop them in their tracks from annihilating the rest of the population. Recent numbers came out leaked from the occupied territory. The occupation themselves believe they have killed 357,000. That is months ago. So by now, we're probably looking as, just like Aguilar said, and his estimation probably correct, 500,000, because he mentioned also that's the area, the concentration camp that they designated where he was, is only enough to hold 1.5 million. That means they are comfortable that the remaining of the population is only 1.5 million, if not less. So in a matter of a month or two, there might be no Gaza, no Palestine, and even less than that, actually, because I'm myself in touch with Gazans on the ground as part of our disaster relief operations with the UDRF, Universal Disaster Relief, which I am the president of as well. We hear the acceleration of the bombardment every day, and it is not getting any less intense. It is actually accelerating in a scary rate. The casualty numbers now, no less than 100 per day on the Gazan side, and multiply it by the number of upcoming days. So every day we are not achieving something, it's a day that's 100 more or 150 more innocent lives are lost. That's why we have the September 15th protest rally and press conference at the UN in order to pressure them, as Helga before mentioned and others mentioned, resolution United for Peace 377A, in order to pressure the international community to intervene. As she said also, in 1956 there was a precedent to that. When Britain, France, and Israel attacked Egypt. Something has to be done in order to stop this genocidal arrogance, and they are not going to stop unless somebody stops them. They're not going to decide to stop until somebody stops them. I would love to, honestly, from the beginning, I was calling for continuous everyday action, even in DC and in New York, until this is over. Because it's not going to be over. The United States is not going to stop using veto unless the pressure increases within the United States of America. And I would like every single organization, every single activist, every single community leader to rally toward that goal and pressure them to enforce that resolution, because this is pretty much the only hope, as we discussed, Anastasia, right now. This is the only hope that we have to stop this madness. And honestly, I don't know what else to say, because what I'm seeing in Gaza is heartbreaking. It's images of atrocities that is, in my opinion, even at a scarier and higher level than anything ever committed before, because Nazis did not have nukes. Nazis did not have intercontinental missiles. Nazis did not have 2,000 pounds bombs that can level an entire block, and they are using it on tents. Tents. If you drop 2,000-pound bomb on a group of tents, how many people are you going to take out? In hundreds. And that is exactly what happened, not to mention the precision targeting to kill the truth, kill the voice that convey the truth from inside Gaza, from the journalists. I mean, they are obviously deliberate in that, and everybody can see it. The international community has no excuse anymore to turn the blind eye to them. Even those who are still insisting that there is no war crimes, such as the Secretary of State in the United States and Trump, it is undeniable. They are lying to the public's face, and somebody has to stop them. Please join us on September 15th. Doctors Against Genocide also having the 23rd of September protest, and they are calling actually for continuous protest until the United Nations implement and enforce Uniting for Peace resolution. And thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate you all. Thank you for all you do for Palestine, for humanity.
Thank you so much, Rafed, for that. And also thank you for reminding me about the Doctors Against Genocide event on the 23rd. I'll make sure to include that link as well. I put the link for the September 15th event in the chat. People can check it out there. We do have, I saw a few people from Doctors Against Genocide who are on the discussion today, so maybe one of them can jump on and say something during the discussion period. So also to continue adding on this, what we've been organizing for and actions around the country and around the world, one excellent example is nonviolent direct action. And Josephine Guilbeault and Anthony Aguilar, I wanted to show the clip of your intervention so people get a sense of what they can do as well. And do not be afraid, especially if you're American, of getting arrested. It's worth it. So please go ahead and show that video.
The United States government is complicit in genocide. You have an obligation to the Constitution of the United States. I'm a disabled veteran.
There's a genocide! There's a genocide! Stop!
You are all complicit in genocide.
Ma'am, you're not allowed to film in here. We told you this earlier. You're complicit in a genocide! You're complicit in a genocide! Eddie, there's a genocide! Eddie, there's a genocide! Come on, Eddie. There's a genocide! You're complicit in genocide of the Palestinian people! You are complicit! Come on, Eddie! Eddie, help us! Eddie, help us save them! Come on, Eddie! The Israeli terrorists are committing a genocide, and the U.S. Congress and Senate are complicit in funding the bombs that are forcing children to be slaughtered and massacred. Shame on this government. The United States of America is complicit in genocide. The Israeli terrorists are starving children.
If they'll arrest veterans, they'll arrest you.
Stop the bombs! Stop the bombs! Stop! Shame on you! You're complicit! This is your legacy! This is your legacy! Why are they arresting you?
They're arresting us for speaking out against genocide.
Stop the bombs!
The U.S.
Stop
Congress
the bombs!
is paying for the
Stop
death of children,
slaughtering babies!
women and children.
Stop slaughtering babies! We are being arrested right now for interrupting a foreign affairs hearing on nominations because the U.S. is complicit in genocide. They are complicit in the slaughter of babies.
When the United States Congress comes after veterans, they will come after you. Every American sitting at home right now needs to realize that you are paying for a genocide.
Rise up! Rise up, America! Rise up! It is time to take back this country from these corrupt politicians. It is time. It is beyond time.
We're going out to the voting dog.
Thank you for your service. Thank you so much for what you did and what you have been doing, both you and Anthony Aguilar, and the amount of courage that it takes to do something like this, especially with your standing and what your positions were in the military, to use that to speak out against genocide. I mean, imagine the kind of courage that that takes for people to really hear this coming from people who were there, who saw it, who had to, maybe Anthony, if at some point could tell the story of what he had to do to get that footage out of Israel. But it was so important that he did this because we would not have had that footage had it not been for him. But Josephine Gilbo, please go ahead and you have the floor. Describe what you've been up to and what happened. Oh, unfortunately, I can't hear you. You're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Thank you for having me on. I like just in relation to that type of action. I, as a 17-year veteran, never thought in my life that I would have to get the courage to go against my own government for what they are complicit in. This is not something that I do lightly or that I enjoy doing because of the reality of why I'm doing it is just so incredibly heartbreaking. As a mother, as an American who's funding this, as a veteran, as so many a Christian, so many identities that I have. This is not something that I enjoy doing, and I go and I say that because we have to become uncomfortable in these types of actions. We have to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations because those are the types of things that we have to do in order to move the needle. As an American citizen, as a veteran, we have a responsibility within our country to remind our government and sound the alarm of our government, and make sure they know that we as Americans, we as veterans are not okay with what they are doing, and that we, the people, hold the power, and we need them to listen to what we are saying right now, because it is like many other people have said, life or death. It's life or death right now. We specifically chose this action now because of the urgency of the invasion of Gaza City. We saw that the IDF spokesperson announced that they have invaded 40% of Gaza City, and we are witnessing an intense offensive operation, if you want to call it that, intense massacres right now happening. And their desire is to use these massacres to forcibly displace people. So many people who received this notice to get displaced didn't do it because, quite frankly, there's nowhere to go. I'm working with families on the ground who are just simply looking for a plot of land to put a tent on, to remove themselves from the area, and it's just nearly impossible. And so what's happening is they have no choice but to stay where they are, and in that, it's forcing the IDF terrorists to intensify their actions and cause these mass massacres, forcing them to displace by whatever means necessary. And so our action was to sound the alarm on the urgency of organizations within America, perhaps who have not been outspoken about this issue, to include the Catholics and the archdiocese here in America, to include organizations like Wounded Warrior Project and the Disabled Veterans of America, and all these other organizations. We're sounding this alarm because we want them to get involved. We want other organizations to get involved and speak out and put pressure on this administration, because, like Helga has mentioned before, anyone who has at least a quarter of a brain cell knows that this empire is falling and that the global power has shifted. And we have a love for our people here in America. We love this country, and we want to save it. We want to save this country from itself. We want to save Americans from having to suffer the choices that this administration is making and that the Biden administration has made. So we have a desperate call and a desperate cry, actually, to everyone to think outside of the box. We've been operating amongst ourselves and we continue to reach out, but now is the time to put that pressure on other institutions, universities, education, scholars, veterans groups, anything you can really think of to pull them into putting pressure. And one of the things that we're working on now at Eisenhower Media Network, in collaboration with other similar organizations, is throwing our support behind President Abbas to announce that he is calling for this peace resolution to be implemented. We want him to know that here in America, we are supporting this peace resolution, and we're hoping that at this collaboration of the United Nations coming together, that those conversations are going to be really had. And we want the international community to know that we, the people in America, support that resolution, despite what our corrupt government is saying. The people support it. And so, if I may, I have Colonel Aguilar here. Colonel Aguilar.
Please go ahead. We're honored to have you on, Colonel Aguilar.
Colonel Aguilar, can you make 5-minute statement about our action? Yep.
Extraordinary. I want to also just note that someone
Hi, Colonel Aguilar. Good to see you again.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi,
I
it's
can
great
hear
to see
you loud and clear.
Hi, yeah, I was on another call with Jill Stein, but yeah, it's so as Josie was talking about, why we felt that we needed a more of an action of just talking or submitting arguments or submitting notifications or sternly worded letters. Those are all things that are certainly necessary part of the process, but we are, as an international community, we are running out of time. The Israeli Defense Forces have accelerated their offensive in the north in Gaza City to Jabalia. The call up of the 60,000 reserves and the preparation to put them into the fight to accelerate the fight in the north is ongoing. They've initiated an additional offensive front in the north from Jabalia, moving south to the west, which will then clear and destroy Gaza City and Jabalia in half the time than the original plan called for. And they've already started a month earlier than the original plan had called for. So from an operational sense, when you look at this offensive and how the offensive cleared central Gaza and how the offensive is now clearing the north, it's very concerning, the increase in tempo and the speed of which Israel is attempting to get this done. And that's very much in line with the international community and the pressure from the international community. So this is encouraging to me in one aspect, because it shows that if the international community does unite to condemn and stop what's going on, we can. It's not a matter of if we can or not. It's a matter of will we. Israel now knows that time is not on their side, that time is quickly coming to the point to where they will not be able to continue this operation to the extent that it's going, with genocide, forced starvation, forced displacement, dehumanizing the population. The world has seen the truth, and they're running out of time, and so they're trying to speed that process up. We too are running out of time, and if we don't take action to stop it, come September, when we all meet at the United Nations and we have people give wonderful speeches and great proclamations for a Palestinian state, we won't have a Palestinian state to be talking about. Every Palestinian in Gaza will be either displaced to the south or dead, on their way to be transported to some other land, or worse, if there is a final solution that continues to be through killing, bombing, starvation, disease, famine, dehumanization, every Palestinian in Gaza will be dead. That's not something that is fantasy or so far fetched that can't happen. It's already happening. It's happening now. It's happening as we speak. It's happening in front of our eyes. If people don't think that 1.5 to 2 million people can be killed or annihilated in a week's time, I ask you to just open your history book and look to the 1940s when Polish Jews were moved from the ghettos of Warsaw into central Germany, and how quickly that happened, and how quickly before our eyes millions died. It can happen again, and it's happening now. And if we continue to pretend that we have time, there will not be a Palestinian state to recognize. There will not be a Palestinian people to fight for. And Israel knows that, and they know they're running out of time. And Israel has said it very clearly that they will keep going as long as their ally, the United States, is right there with them. So we have an obligation to stop this. And if we don't, we only have ourselves to blame. And if we do, I think we can once again, as a great nation, be on the right side of humanity and begin bringing humanity back to this part of the world, especially into Gaza. But time is not on our side, and I say that with confidence in having seen the operation, having been in Gaza, seeing the operational plans, but also as a military practitioner and expert of 25 years, knowing how operational plans are executed and what the objectives are and how long things like this will take. And again, time is not on our side on this as a world.
Thank you so much, Colonel Aguilar, for hopping on and saying what you had to say. I think the action that you and Josephine Guilbeault is excellent, and more people need to come out and do this. I want to encourage everybody who's on the discussion. There's about over 200 or 300 people on this call right now, plus whatever thousands of people are watching over the live broadcast. Go out and intervene. Do this in the Congress, do this in your parliament, go wherever you can, organize in the streets. We have to get a massive momentum going on, and we'll have more discussion with people. If you need help learning how to do things like this, we will help you. I'm sure Josephine would love to train you to go into the Congress and how to get arrested.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Anastasia, for having me on. And, please put my email in the chat and my phone number if anybody wants to reach out. And, I'm here to help in any way. And I want to thank everyone from all over the world that's here because, this is humanity. We're at a fork in the road right now. The direction that we're headed as a species, as a world population of really just one family. We're all one family, and we really do have the power to raise the consciousness and get us back on the right track. And I believe that deep in my soul. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you again. I'll include that information in the Zoom chat here. I also included the intervention. Please share it, folks. Please get it around. So, okay, so we'll continue, and I'm sure folks will be happy to see you on September 15th in New York. You'll be speaking at those events there. So excellent. So we'll continue. We have one more report, actually, from the campus work that has been going on, which has been a wild ride. I just to say quickly, I was at the Palestine conference in Detroit, and there was a number of student organizers who were describing the process of what's happening. If people are unaware throughout the world what's happened to the U.S. universities, there is huge attack coming from the federal government to withdraw funding for anti-Semitism. There's massive amounts of felonies that are being given. I know firsthand from talking with students at University of Michigan that people are being given felonies for even entering the campus, and there's been a huge jump in hostilities, including arrests and beating people up to prevent them from organizing at the campuses. Despite that, there's been a lot of success, although it's definitely under heavy attack. So why don't we go to Daniel and the work that you've been doing on the campuses, organizing for a new security and development architecture and mobilizing the population in New York City.
Thank you, Anastasia. I'm Daniel Burke. I work with the Schiller Institute and the LaRouche Organization, and I volunteer with Jose Vega's campaign for Congress. And I have some things I can share with you about what we've been doing in these first 2 weeks of the campuses being open in New York City. So I would like to begin by sharing screen, and I'm going to show, and I hope that my computer is going to cooperate with me, a video of us at a major campus in New York. And you'll see that Jose Vega there is holding the sign, the UNGA must stop the genocide in Gaza, which you can't see it at this resolution, but it refers to the Uniting for Peace resolution.
And go home to my love and be free. You got better by the end.
Yeah, it did. You heard some.
So I hope you enjoyed that. But that is, I'll pause my sharing for a moment. Or I guess I'll stop it and resume in a moment. That's our method. We are trying to hit at the fundamental issue that mankind is not an animal, and we're using classical beauty to engage with the students and to lift them out of the typical way of thinking, which is predominantly cynical and distracted, at the same time as being misinformed about the actual changes happening in mankind. So I am happy to say that as soon as we finished singing, a trio of young students came up and said, "What is this all about? What do you mean mankind is not an animal? What is this uniting for peace?" And because we began at that level on the question of the dignity of man, as has been discussed today, it really allowed us, I think, to put people on the stage of history, which is our intention, to give them that opportunity to actually, speak, to think of themselves from the standpoint of their true humanity. So that's our intention. And I'm going to share some other things in here that to show you a little bit more. But I will say that it was exactly on that same corner that the next day I was arrested as part of this sort of crackdown on a completely illegitimate effort to try to intimidate us from being on the campus. We're there talking to people about the need to resolve the crisis, the dangers of World War III, the financial crash. We're sharing with them the method of forecasting and inquiry of Lyndon LaRouche, the method of intervening into human history. And in response to that, I was put in a cell for a couple of hours, and we're going to challenge that as best as we can. But we have this beautiful vision of the World Land Bridge, and we're speaking to people about these 18 to 20, 25-year-olds largely, about what is your vision for the next 50 years of humanity. And in that context, to show what's really going on with this SCO development. You see here on the left, Putin and Modi and Xi speaking. This is a picture from the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting in Tianjin. And it says, get out of the imperial stroller and join the BRICS. And there's King Charles pushing along Trump and Friedrich Merz and telling them, no, you're not going over there because I said so. And there's Merz, reciting his litany. So this was us at a completely different campus in the Bronx. And we're trying to bring people into the idea of an international youth movement for peace through development, in which young people would reject the axiomatic assumptions of empire, of this collapsing empire, and instead take note of the changes in humanity and consider how it is that we could build a catalytic capability among youth to actually bring about this change in policy from the United States, Europe, and other Western countries towards the global South and the BRICS in general, the global majority. So this is all sort of leading towards our major international conference, which I think will be announcing soon and may have already been announced in part in France, which will come up in November with special focus on youth from across the world cooperating to break open this new paradigm and to make changes in policy, as for example in the Uniting for Peace resolution. So that's what I have to share with you. And if you have any young people who you would like to get involved, one of the premier things that we'll be doing coming up soon is that we will be having an international youth dialogue with Helga Zepp-LaRouche. It is scheduled for September 30th, which is a Tuesday. It will be at noon Eastern is the present intention. And we'll have an invitation for that very soon. And I really ask everyone to contact the youth that are in your organizations or that you're in dialogue with, and have them come in, because we will have people from many, many different countries, young people speaking, and we want them all to be able to form a chorus, form a polyphonic mutual effort to change history. So thank you very much.
And just to add, there will be interpretation at that event as well. So if you know people who don't speak English but do French, German, or Spanish, no problem.
Excellent. Thank you, Daniel, for that. And yeah, absolutely. More people should join in those activities on the campuses and organizing. Again, don't be afraid of getting arrested. You're fighting for humanity. It's all right. Daniel's alive. He's here. Everything's fine. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. And we should be enjoying tweaking the devil's tail is the way I think we should put it, because as horrific as everything is, we need to overcome the horrors of the world with the world that we actually wish to organize and see. So thank you, Daniel, for that. I actually want to go back to Helga Zepp-LaRouche, for see if you have any response to anything said thus far before we go to the discussion period.
Well, I think in light of what Josephine and Colonel Aguiar were saying, I think we have to somehow think how we can accelerate this organizing in the United Nations, because that seems to be the only place where some action could come from right now. So I would ask all participants to, help us. You can go to the embassies, you can if you are in places, like New York, you can, make sure the embassies of the world know what was said here. And I think we may be able to make available excerpt of the video from the two interventions from Josephine and Colonel Aguilar to present, because I think this is something which is definitely not in the news, but I think what you said, time is not on our side, is the most pressing thing. So that would be my immediate comment.
Great. Thank you, Helga. And with that, we'll continue on to the discussion period. We have definitely plenty of questions coming in from people all over the world. I'll just make this general announcement to everyone. If you're wherever you are, this is being broadcast. We have people co-broadcasting this. Go to the schillerinstitute.com and you will find the registration page so you can join the Zoom and be part of the discussion. It should be right on the top of the website, one of the very first items, RSVP, and you will be emailed the Zoom link. And with that, Dave, let me know when we've cut the stream.